So on our last day in London, we were going to be heading back to Paris via St. Pancras Station. But because it was so dang early, we decided not to trust an Uber or Lyft or anything like that. So we instead decided to go a little bit bougie, and we actually got one of those black cabs that you see in the movies and television shows in London. And it was actually a great experience, and honestly, kind of a nice way to capstone our time in London. The cab driver was just super nice, just more than nice, very over the top, and just very appreciative. And we were just so grateful for his time and his patience. We were exhausted, of course, so we barely talked on the drive over, but it was just kind of nice being able to see a little bit of London one last time as we were heading back to the station. The train ride was roughly about the same. We just kind of got in there nice and easy, but the trickiest part was getting again from Gare du Nord and all the way to Disneyland Paris to get our bags that he had checked there in a little luggage place that we had an issue with earlier. And then we went back to Val d'Europe, which is the station next to that one. And we had a major hard time getting back into the apartment that we were staying in before, because whoever had stayed in there previously had jammed the key against the lock, and so it wasn't able to open the lockbox for it. So we had to contact our Airbnb host, who after about 45 minutes did show up, and we were able to get in and throw our stuff in, and we had to run because we actually had a set reservation appointment for Saint-Tropez. What was kind of neat was we were using this 2-day city pass for Paris that would get us into a bunch of locations, and it was definitely worth our money because we decided it would also not only work for Paris itself, but also work for Versailles. It worked for a bunch of other cool places and museums, and so we decided, let's just make the most of it. Some of the places do require a reservation, and it's nice to have one because when we got to Saint-Tropez, there was a line stretching all the way around the back, and we're like, oh my gosh, is this it? No, it wasn't. That was just people that didn't have a reservation. So we just cut everyone, and it felt like we were in a fast pass line, and that happened a lot for a lot of the attractions that we were at. But then we were able to enter Saint-Tropez. We're now over here by Saint-Tropez. Saint-Tropez is just such a beautiful chapel. It was used as a chapel, a private chapel for the nobility of Paris for many, many years. And you can kind of tell it has this very regal-esque vibe that's going on in there. And it was just kind of neat that it was just something that was special now for the public of Paris to be able to enjoy this amazing little area. One of the things I really liked a lot was the stained glass there. Many people talk about Notre Dame stained glass, but this is such a kind of a unique area because it just lines the entire building, and each of them tells a story. Some of it's from the Bible, some of it's from historical narratives and stuff like that, but they're all just exquisite in their beauty. People often recommend going to see it in the morning or the evening because that's when the sun's hitting it best, but we went around like midday and it was still very, very beautiful to be able to see. We had audio guides with us that kind of were help explaining what each of these things represented, as well as some of the history of the area, and it was just absolutely spectacular. Funnily enough, from there we actually went over to Notre Dame, which at the time was still under construction because it hadn't been reopened yet from the fire. But what had been done was they had recently renovated the steeple. One of my favorite things getting to see with Notre Dame is the spire that has been rebuilt. This collapsed during the 2019 fire, but it's now being finished and finalized, and this whole building should be open later this year is what they're projecting. Still so majestic though to look at. From there, we went up the hill to the right, heading towards the Pantheon, which was France's basically mausoleum to many of France's greatest heroes. One of the coolest things in the Pantheon was the amount of art and architecture that was on display here. That was absolutely spectacular. They had these massive tapestries and these giant panels of art depicting amazing scenes from French history, and that was just at the main level. They also had an ability if you wanted to go up to the very, very top of the building where the rotunda was. We didn't really have that ability, unfortunately, because we didn't have that time, because by that point it was already kind of later in the day and they had already closed that off because it takes a while to get up there. And besides, we already knew what we were going to do later on in that day to be able to see a good view of Paris. So we kind of saved that for later. So we instead went downstairs into the mausoleum itself, where we were able to see graves of some of France's greatest heroes, from people like Voltaire to Marie Curie to some of the amazing people like Victor Hugo. Absolutely spectacular to see these sites. By this point in the day, we are exhausted, and we are tired, and we are hungry. And one of the things I did not research enough of, or at least I thought I didn't research enough of, is the food in Paris. We knew we were only going to be in Paris maybe a day or two, so we didn't really do much research on restaurants in Paris, just because we weren't wanting to go to a tourist trap or anything like that. So I was purposely trying to avoid places that had a lot of American signage and things like that. It was just kind of difficult, though, to find something, because there's so many restaurants, there's so many food choices in Paris, and you don't want to end up in a place that's not good. So we're just wandering in Saint-Germain, which is the arts district of Paris, and it's beautiful, but we're hungry, we're tired, and eventually Sierra just stops and like, we're going in here. And we happen to pick this place called the Café de Flore, which, unbeknownst to us, is actually a really good French restaurant. Apparently Picasso was a regular over there too as well, or something like that. That's what they were saying there. You know, anything could happen. But what was cool was this place had legendary hot chocolate. And it was probably one of the best hot chocolates we've ever had. This is probably the thing that rivaled the chocolate-covered strawberries in Borough Market for me in London. This was probably France's answer to me, because this thing was amazing. So Sierra and I have settled on our first actual French restaurant. It's going to be Café de Flore. Apparently it's very famous. And we completely happened here by chance. But we're going to enjoy this. It's going to be really fun. So I got the duck confit. And Sierra got the duck. What was it called again? Bertinier? Bertinier. I'm gonna put it right here on the screen, if I remember it. It looks kind of like a shepherd's pie with duck on the bottom. It looks really good. I remember the meal was really good. We both liked it, but the hot chocolate was definitely the plus for us. We would pour it out of this pitcher that they brought, and it was literally like melted chocolate. It was just so good. From there, we took a nice little scenic metro ride to the Champs-Élysées, because we're going to be heading up to the Arc de Triomphe for our next stop. And this would be our one and only really shot close up of the Eiffel Tower. We kind of avoided it purposely, because around this time frame they're still prepping for the Olympics, and there were a ton of tourist traps in that area. And so we're just like, you know what, we can see the tower, I know it's there. We thought about maybe we should go up it, but then we just looked at videos of it and how crowded it gets and how dangerous it can be for pickpocketers and stuff like that. And I think we were still kind of paranoid about this for international travel. And so regrettably, we didn't go anywhere real near the Eiffel Tower, but this is about as close as we got. We did get a nice little shot of it though from the Arc de Triomphe.
And we just left the Charles de Gaulle train stop, and here we are at Arc de Triomphe. Such a beautiful location and a beautiful day as well.
The Arc de Triomphe is a massive structure that has a ton of historical significance to it. And once again, we were able to bypass this huge line to be able to get over there. One of the things I kind of liked about getting over there, though, was they actually had an underground passage that will take you around this major roundabout that goes around the Arc de Triomphe. So that way it doesn't block any traffic with the thousands of tourists that will go and visit it. So that way it keeps things flowing. It was kind of a brilliant way to be able to control that. And the tunnel itself was kind of fun. They had some buskers in there too as well that were pretty good too as well. And it was kind of fun. Once we got on the other side of it, we started the climb after we went through security. And the climb itself is like 200 plus stairs. It is a massive, structure once you're in there. And it's kind of funny just because it's very tight staircases, but they have these little alcoves for you to be able to take a break once you're going up. I wasn't sure if they had a wheelchair or if there was a elevator that would take you up into it. They had similar options and stuff like that once you got there, so I'm assuming that there was something, but we decided not to wait around for it. But once we got to the top, it was probably one of the best views in Paris we were going to see on our entire trip.
It's 8 o'clock and we're on top of the Arc de Triomphe. This is the business district. Obviously, we didn't show the pretty side of it, but look at that sunset. It is beautiful.
So from up here, you can perceive pretty much everywhere we've been already. Straight ahead is the Louvre. If you look kind of behind that crane and then the crane behind it, way off in the distance, there's like another crane. Right below that's Notre Dame. To the right of that, that's the Pantheon straight in the center there. The gold roof thing, that is the Tomb of Napoleon. Of course, over there is the Eiffel Tower. And way over there on the left-hand side is Montmartre. I'm not sure if we'll get there on this trip, but that's still pretty cool that that's over there. Building straight right there, that's the Royal Opera House, based off of Phantom of the Opera, which is super, super cool. And this entire walkway here is the Champs-Élysées. After climbing all the way down and taking some more pictures at the bottom of the Arc de Triomphe, we decided to finally call it a night, and we head right back to the Airbnb, where the following day we'd be heading to the Palace of Versailles. After that, we didn't really spend too much time in Paris after this day. It was just Versailles on the next day, and then the rest of the couple days were at Disneyland Paris. If there was one regret I had, was I wish we had done more research on the restaurants in Paris and maybe gone to see some of more of the museums when we're not as tired. But part of that was, again, where we were staying. We were staying about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on metro traffic, away from the heart of Paris. And so getting in and out of the city was kind of a pain. So if we were to do it again, we probably would have tried to stay more in Paris. But what we had been able to see, even in that short amount of time, was such a great experience, and we cannot wait to go back.